Hello and welcome back to the Nobody Project. My name is Peter Kashiwagi. Yoroshiku onegaishimasu. In this episode of the Nobody Project, we'll be going over habits and routines, the importance of healthy habits, and how to implement them into daily routines which you can use to aid in your self-discipline. First is the importance of healthy habits. If you remember from the last episode, healthy habits are the key to self-discipline. I'm going to go over how to implement them into your life and how to implement a routine into your life with those healthy habits. If you haven't seen the last episode, I'll link to it down below and at the end of the video. Now, healthy habits aren't just important for self-discipline. They're important for your quality of life, even if you're not trying to discipline yourself as strictly as I'm suggesting. Healthy habits are always a good thing to strive for. Along with forming healthy habits comes getting rid of your bad habits. Your bad habits might include drug use, tobacco, negativity, putting yourself down, putting other people down, coffee, whatever it may be. Now, forming healthy habits isn't going to be easy. This is going to be something that you're going to be going through months and months and months of practice. In the last video, I mentioned your basal ganglia versus your prefrontal cortex. What I neglected to mention in that video is that your prefrontal cortex is your decision-making powerhouse. That is actually where my tumor was located and why it caused personality changes. So when you're trying to decide that something is better for you, when you're trying to kick a bad habit, when you're trying to form a new habit that you might not be comfortable with, your basal ganglia is going to go against that. It's going to fight you because it's not going to feel right. So it will take weeks and months of repetitive behavior in order for you to retrain your basal ganglia, because like I mentioned before, it's responsible for your automatic behaviors, your habits, like driving and turning off the lights when you leave the room, or sometimes not turning off the lights when you leave the room. It's part of your habits. You might not notice that you're doing it because it's an automatic thing that your brain just does. It's a time and processing power saving function of the brain. When people say it's like riding a bike, this is what they mean. It means that they've trained their basal ganglia so well for that specific task that it's become second nature. When you make a decision to either quit something that is bad for you, like cigarettes, I'm gonna use cigarettes a lot as an example because I have quit cigarettes. So when you're trying to quit something like cigarettes, that is what you're going to have to fight, is your basal ganglia. Because addictions also get recorded in the basal ganglia. And I'm not trying to make light of drug addictions. Those are real, they're problems. However, with enough willpower, you can overcome anything. So for the long and short, healthy habits are good to form, bad habits are good to get rid of, and your prefrontal cortex, your decision-making powerhouse, is what you're gonna have to be using to fight your basal ganglia, which is a part of your brain that controls habits that are automatic. Routines are also important in forming self-discipline. Your morning routine and your evening routine define you as a person. If you think otherwise, pay attention next time you wake up. Pay attention very closely to the first thing that you do, and then the second thing, and the thing after that. And you tell me if that doesn't tell you a lot about who you are. If you don't have this habit of having a set routine for yourself, do a test for me. Write down everything you do every morning. Every morning you wake up, write down, I did X, Y, and Z in order. And keep a journal of that for at least a week. And then tell me if that doesn't reflect how you feel or how you behave on a daily basis, what your attitude is. I guarantee you it is going to have an impact on how you behave throughout the day, how you feel throughout the day, and even how you treat other people throughout the day. So without further ado, let's get into how to build healthy habits. First of all, what is a healthy habit? Okay, healthy habits are what you would expect them to be. Exercising on a regular basis, meditating on a regular basis, waking up early on a regular basis, going to bed early on a regular basis, and eating well are all examples of healthy habits. Those aren't the only ones. You can have other ones as long as it's an improvement to your life, as long as it's good for you. Anything that improves your quality of life is a healthy habit to implement. I, for example, struggled with exercising and just not feeling very comfortable with my body. So what I did to remedy that is I started to eat better and I started to exercise on a regular basis. Now I feel much better about myself. I feel good about what I'm intaking into my body. I feel better about my level of activity, and I just overall feel more confident. Those are examples of healthy habits. I'm going to give you some that I've implemented into my daily routine. I now tend to avoid TV. That is the biggest one. It's literally a waste of your time. It is the biggest waste of your life. So avoiding TV was the first one for me. That was very easy because I was very driven when I first started. Like I mentioned before, when I first started self-discipline, I didn't just jump into it, I researched it. So I meditated for a long time on what drives me. I was very driven at the time, and giving up things like TV and starting things like working out was very easy to me. Even waking up early and on time every day and going to bed early every day became second nature very, very quickly because I was very driven and motivated. So some of my healthy habits that I've started to implement that has greatly improved my life was avoiding TV, avoiding procrastination, keeping journals, my discipline journal and my gratitude journal, exercising, eating better, studying more, and yes, even being more invested in your future is a habit. Believe it or not, it actually is. Now, the importance of routines. Routines are essentially a list of your habits that you compile and compress into something that you do every day to the point that it becomes second nature. In other words, it is something that you repeatedly do in order. Habits that you continuously work on every day without fault. Routines are important because, like I mentioned before, it says a lot about you, about who you are. My morning routine is as such. I wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning every day, except for Sundays, which I wake up at 6. I have a drink of water and I take care of my cat. I then immediately meditate for at least 30 to 45 minutes. After meditating, I exercise for at least 30 to 45 minutes. After that, I go into my Panda planner. This is not a sponsored video. This is just the best planner I have ever found. It's got breakdowns weekly, monthly, and daily. So I go in and I write my plan of action for the day. It also has a gratitude journal, but I also keep my own gratitude journal to write more in detail what I am grateful for. That is a very important habit to have. Once I am done making my plan of action for the day, I have a healthy smoothie and then break for about half an hour where I will do anything that is relaxing to me, read, write, sometimes even watch a YouTube video that I missed from the previous day. And that is my morning routine. That is something I do from 4 o'clock in the morning when I wake up to around 6:30 in the morning when I should be having my shake and relaxing for a half hour. We'll go over more about my day in detail in a time management video. But that is my routine. That is what I do every morning. With the exception of Sundays, I skip the workout and I wake up later in the day, and I just generally take that day off to reward myself. I look forward to it all week, and it is when I get to relax guilt-free without feeling like maybe I should be doing something more important. I don't have that because I have discipline. Same thing goes for my nightly routine. It's a little bit more simple, but I turn off all electronic devices at least 1 to 2 hours before I go to bed. I plug in all of my battery-powered devices right in my journal, my self-discipline journal, right on my Panda planner for the end of the day. And last but certainly not least, I read for at least 1 hour every night. That is the routine that I follow from Monday night to Saturday night. The only difference is I do a weekly review on Sundays. So now that you've picked a healthy habit that you want to implement, how do you actually do it? How do you actually implement it into your life? If it's something that you're not used to doing, like exercising, for example, having a routine greatly helps in this situation because you can set up your own cue. Remember, the key to habits are cue, reaction, reward, right? So you can set up your own cue if you're having a hard time implementing a healthy habit by having a routine. Now, the way I did it, my cue to exercise was meditation. I prepared myself for exercising by meditating. So that was my cue. Once I'm done with the meditation, that is my cue to start exercising. My reward for exercising was, like I mentioned before, the healthy smoothie, the shake. I'm not gonna stand here and tell you that it was simple and easy. It took about 30 to 60 days for me to link meditation with exercising and then exercising with a healthy, delicious smoothie. Because, like I mentioned before, you're making a prefrontal cortex decision to rewrite your basal ganglia and it doesn't feel right. So it didn't feel right. So even starting meditation, I had to be creative with that. I had to use waking up early as a cue for me to meditate. Or even the glass of water and just that walk and taking care of my cat. I used that as a cue for meditation. And the meditation was the cue for exercising. And the reward for all of that was the shower and the healthy smoothie. So when you're trying to set up a healthy habit for yourself, it's important to recognize the pattern of habits. So set up a reward for yourself. What are you going to reward yourself with? And if you're trying to do something like exercising, don't reward yourself with a candy bar. That's wrong. That's binging. That's not good. Reward yourself with something healthy, another healthy habit that you enjoy. Now, to keep this video short, I'm not going to go too much into how habits are formed or the psychology of habits. However, the key to habit is just repetition, 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 and willpower. Willpower is absolutely essential to habit building, to routine formation. It's 100% essential, much like it is for discipline. All of this feeds off of each other. If you want to discipline yourself, you form habits. If you want to stick to those habits, you create routines around those habits. Now, I went over how I got rid of a bad habit before. I'm just going to go into it quickly. Again, I'm going to link down below to the last video and also at the end of this video. But bad habits are very easy to form and incredibly difficult to break. So with this, you are going to need extra willpower and maybe even a little bit of help. I used a mixture of the patch and recognizing the pattern of behavior of habits, which is the cue, reaction, reward. I try to be mindful of that. Every time I got the urge to have a cigarette, I would live in that moment. I would examine it. Why do I feel like having a cigarette right now? Then I would think to myself, what would I get from having the cigarette right now? Followed by, how can I avoid having a cigarette? And by the time I was done with that train of thought, the urge to have a cigarette was gone. That is because I built a strong foundation of willpower and attitude. So I was able to overpower my own addiction 9 out of 10 times. I'm not perfect. I have had to force myself not to have a cigarette. I have had to go on walks in order to not have a cigarette. I have had to exercise in order to not have a cigarette. It's a battle. Bad habits are battles, especially addiction. Now, along with getting rid of cigarettes, I was also avoiding caffeine because that was one of my cues. So that made it even harder because caffeine is also an addictive substance. So when you're trying to get rid of two addictive substances, no matter how more addictive one is than the other, it piles on very quick and you become very cranky, and it's okay. It's okay. The people around you are going to understand, and if they don't, then they're toxic people and they shouldn't be around you in the first place. So that is how you build healthy habits and get rid of bad habits. Now, here's my list of recommended healthy habits for your self-discipline. 1, a journal, self-discipline journal, 100% essential. Gratitude journal, 100% essential. Time management. I'll have a video about that later, but that is absolutely essential. Eating better, taking care of yourself better, Exercising. That is most definitely a recommended and highly important habit. And of course, having a regular wake and sleep schedule. Try to go to sleep before 10 p.m. I go to bed at 8 o'clock at night every day. And I wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning every day. That kind of regularity, you will train your circadian cycle. And with that kind of habit, you don't even have to wait for 30 to 60 days. You will get used to it within a week or two, and you will notice how much better you feel throughout the day, how much more energy you have throughout the day. So those are the 5 big healthy habits that I recommend. So how do you use routines to help you stick to the habits? Very simple. You make them into a series of cues, actions, and rewards that you set up for yourself. And you start small. Don't try to implement too many things at once. I started very gradual. First, I started meditating and exercising. Then I moved on to more complex things like planning my day and time management, and just gradually built on them until I had a solid morning routine. So 98% of the time, I would do everything on my routine. There are times you have to be flexible. Life throws things at you that you cannot predict. So you have to be flexible. You have to, again, forgive yourself for not doing something or skipping something. But the important thing is that you continue to do it. Don't just stop because you didn't do it once. Habits are formed out of repetition. Sheer, pure repetition. Just over and over again, keep doing it, and you will eventually rewire your basal ganglia to the point that it feels wrong when you don't do it. If I skip something in my morning routine, something just doesn't feel right. Sometimes throws me off for the whole day. Whereas when I started, it felt terrible to wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning. It felt terrible to sit still for 45 minutes. It felt terrible to exercise for 45 minutes. These things are hard. Now it feels like it's second nature. Now I don't even think about it anymore. So you build routines around your healthy habits, and you build habits by repetition. Start small, aim big. So to recap, healthy habits are incredibly good for you, and having a daily routine is how you stick to those habits. As long as you master that formula, you've mastered habits, and you are now in control of your behavior. Thank you for watching this video. I appreciate it. It means a lot to me. I would like to take this time to thank all of the subscribers. This channel is growing faster than I thought it would. So thank you very much, all of you. I promise not to let you down. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share if you appreciate what I have to offer. And as always, I will see you in the next video. Mata ne!